Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese says he's confident an agreement to buy US nuclear-powered submarines is on track. That's despite objections from some politicians in Washington. Mr. Albanese also applauded what he sees as congressional backing for the AUKUS security alliance between Australia, the United Kingdom and the United States.
I met with Republicans and Democrats in Lithuania just a couple of weeks ago. And what struck me was their unanimous support for AUKUS, their unanimous support for the relationship between Australia and the United States that has never been stronger.
AUKUS is a primary focus for this year's meeting of US and Australian foreign and defence ministers underway in Brisbane. Australia's planned purchase of US nuclear subs under the AUKUS arrangement met some resistance in Washington yesterday. 25 US Republican lawmakers voicing their concerns to President Joe Biden. They said the plan would, quote, unacceptably weaken the American fleet without a clear plan to replace what Australia would take away from this fleet. They also urged Mr. Biden to increase funding amid concerns about China's increasing military might. The annual Australia-US ministerial meeting includes US Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Defence Secretary Lloyd Austin. Our progress on the nuclear-powered submarine deal, regional security and clean energy are all high on the agenda. Washington is a key security ally for Canberra, and the AUKUS project announced with Britain in March will see the US selling 3 Virginia-class nuclear-powered subs to Australia in the early 2030s. And for more, this Sally Patterson joins us live from New York. As we heard that, Sally, AUKUS very high on the agenda at this meeting. We've also got clean energy and also regional security and the security of supply chains. Now, Secretary of State Antony Blinken has made that very clear. But given that this is traditionally a security-focused meeting between Australia and the US, do you see priority being given equally to all these different concerns?
Well, as you've heard there, this is really a security pact. That's what the main issue is going to be addressed. And so I would imagine that that's the topic that these leaders are really going to be focusing on. Of course, there are the other issues. Mentioned climate change is one of the biggest issues we're talking about this week. We saw dire warnings from the United Nations just this week that unless there's serious change, climate change is going to really get out of hand. And, you know, we've seen the hottest July on record around the world. So I would imagine that there would also be some time spent on that. But really, this security pact is what's brought these leaders together. As you mentioned there, this big announcement was made back in March about producing these new submarines that would really help Australia's nuclear capabilities, and there's quite a thorough and complicated plan set out over the next couple of decades, which would see these submarines being produced. They're being made across in the United States and also being supported in the United Kingdom, and also being supported by Australia with billions of dollars being pledged towards those. And then there's a plan to train up Australian soldiers to be able to operate these submarines themselves. And so the three will be talking about whether, or the three different countries who are present in the AUKUS meetings will be talking about getting those together, making sure that they are on track and ensuring that the US, the United Kingdom and Australia are able to counter China's growing strength in the area, making sure that they feel confident that those military ties will see them through as the tensions grow within that whole Pacific region.
On that AUKUS deal, US Republicans voicing objection to that, saying Australia will get the US is unable to replace, and that would mean taking away from the power of the American fleet. Prime Minister Albanese has said he's confident the AUKUS deal is still on track. They will still get their 3 nuclear-powered submarines. But is this objection in Washington likely to be a substantial one, enough to derail any deal for Australia at this point?
Well, we have seen those statements from Australia, and we would assume we'll see more over the coming days about how the deal is still on track, about how they are expecting to be able to produce those submarines and be able to ensure that they have the capabilities to do so in the different countries involved in the pact and in the deal, and also ensuring that the nuclear capability, that technology is really brought up to the highest standard and the most modern technology possible. There was concern from Republicans here in the US about whether this would undermine the US's own strength in the coming years, especially as the threat of China's military presence continues to grow. So there is concern from some Republicans that if the US does continue to invest in this pact, then there won't be enough here at home. But there has been assurances that that won't be the case, that there is enough to go around. And Australia has made those commitments that it will be investing its own financial backing into these as well. And we're expecting to see over the next couple of days some more detail about how that might happen and what might come out. And US President Joe Biden seems very committed to the pact and has said so. And so we'll see if the Republicans make any more noise about this deal going forward.
Thanks so much for that. Sally Patterson in New York there for us.